What's your favorite useless trivia fact? The filming of the original Willy Wonka was actually rather unsafe, with a large amount of the cast suffering something. In the candy fire scene, Veruca can be seen having cut her knee on a rock, and that's a real injury her actress picked up. She even still has a scar on her knee to this day. In the soap boat scene, all the soap pumped onto the characters caused the actors to have massive reddening and irritation of the skin. Shooting had to be paused for several weeks to allow them to recover. X is closer in time to Y than Y is to Z. X's are older than Y. The number of X is more than the number of Y in Z. And posted here 1,000,000 times trees, sharks, stars, Milky Way, grains of sand, atoms, rings of Saturn, universe, Cleopatra, Aztecs, pyramids, Oxford University, Google, ways to shuffle a pack of cards. A few others I've probably forgotten. Abstract expressionism was a CIA cultural weapon. In the Cold War, the CIA secretly promoted the works of artists like Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko to increase their cultural value against Russia's claims to be culturally and artistically superior. This in no way diminishes the impact of the American art movement, but it made it easier for it to spread across the world. The very first bomb dropped by the Allies in WWI killed the only elephant in the Berlin Zoo. Context: once the war expanded, the Allies, primarily the UK in this case, weren't heavily involved, as Hitler Germany stuck to targeting military bases and locations. This changed after the bombing of London. The Allied UK forces retaliated and did a bombing run over Berlin. The first of these bombs that landed ended up killing the only elephant in the Berlin Zoo. The phrase "damn the torpedoes" was coined by US Admiral David Farragut in the Civil War, as his squadron was attacking Mobile Bay. The torpedoes referenced were not the underwater missiles that we know today, but were more similar to underwater mines. The safe channel was obstructed by a slowed vessel, so he ordered some of his ships to veer into the waters that were feared to be mined. His ships escaped mostly intact and captured the bay. Providence Re is the only state capital not built on land stolen from Native Americans. Roger Williams bought some of it at a fair price from the leaders of the Narragansett people, who also gave some additional land. Also, Williams wrote the first book-length study in English of a Native American language, and he founded the first government built on the principle of separation of church and state. Martin Van Buren was the first president born an American citizen 1782, and the only president who spoke English as a second language. His first language was Dutch, for good measure. Although 3 presidents died on July 4, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams in 1826, James Monroe in 1831, only one was born on July 4, Calvin Coolidge in 1872. The Bishop of the Diocese of Orlando is also the Bishop of the Moon. Canon law states that the bishop of a port that launches a voyage of discovery is the de facto bishop of newly discovered territories until those lands receive their own bishop. So the religious leader of Disney World is also responsible for the moon. At 1 trillion the size, the sun is 1.4 millimeters in diameter, and the Earth is a small bacterium. The next nearest star is still about 40 kilometers away. The Milky Way, on that scale, is about 1,000,000 km in diameter. Life is so complex that saying biology is complex is like saying the universe is big. If you type fact into the search bar for this subreddit, you will find about a dozen posts from the last 24 hours asking basically the same question. It's a useless fact since no one ever uses the search feature, or cares that they're posting the same question that's been posted a dozen times today. The only word in the English language with 3 sets of double letters in a row is bookkeeper. The longest single-syllable word in English is strengths. And Oppenheimer is now the highest-grossing movie of all time that was never won at the box office. Before that was Sing 2. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, the second and third presidents of the United States, both died on the same day. Not only that, the day they both died happened to be July 4, 1826, exactly 50 years to the day from the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Polar bear fur isn't white. It's sort of translucent, hollow with no pigment. When light is reflect off it, that's when it looks white. Additionally, out in the snow, if a polar bear wants to hide, it puts its paw over its nose and then it blends totally in with the white snow. Fixed action patterns in animals. Example, if an egg is out of place, a bird will do a specific ritual to get it back in place. Once started, the bird will complete the ritual even if the egg is removed. The first Oscars acceptance speech in sign language wasn't by Marlee Matlin for Children of a Lesser God in 1986, but by Louise Fletcher for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 1975. She was born to deaf parents and wanted them to hear her speech at home. Bacteria cells in your body outnumber your body's actual cells at a ratio of 10:1. It seems counterintuitive, but we have trillions of bacterial cells in our guts, and they are much smaller than our human cells. They make up about 2 of our body's mass. The word Adirondack, as in the mountain range, probably means bark eaters in the local Native American language. Because the area is so unfarmable and inhospitable, the people who were forced to live there starved a lot and were forced to eat bark. People use the word peruse wrong. We often use it for when we are just looking over, browsing, and not paying super close attention, when in fact peruse means to examine carefully at length. Always found this fact interesting. Car fact: the first Chevrolet SS was actually a Corvette in 1957. It was a race car, did one race, and they never used the SS title in a Corvette ever again. As you know, damn near every car has had SS versions since. The state of Colorado is not a rectangle with 4 straight sides. Due to poor navigation and the terrain getting in the way during early border markings and expeditions, Colorado is a shape with 697 sides to it. Did you know honey never spoils? Archaeologists found pots of the stuff in ancient Egyptian tombs that's still edible. So, in case of a zombie apocalypse, at least we've got eternal honey for our waffles, right? Joe Biden was born closer to Abraham Lincoln's presidency than his own. Biden was born in 1942. And Lincoln's presidency ended in 1865, a gap of 77 years. Meanwhile, Biden was 78 when his own presidency began. That the English verb hang has a different past tense depending on whether someone was executed. E.g., I hung a Christmas wreath on my door versus a convicted bank robber John Doe was hanged yesterday. In The Shining, Jack Torrance has a son named Danny, aka Daniel. In the bar scene, he drinks a bottle of Jack Daniels, so the scene features Jack talking about his son Daniel while drinking Jack Daniels. The father-son who appeared in the most movies together were Bernard and Leo Gorcey in the Barry Bose series. Bernard was Louis, the proprietor of Louis' Sweet Shop. Leo, of course, was Slip Mahoney. The word trivia comes from the markets where 3 roads would intersect. The roads would create a tri-V shape, and the markets would be a place where local information was shared. Trivial information, the speed of light being constant, independent of inertial reference frame. It doesn't matter how fast toward or away from the light source I will always measure its speed as 300,000 kilometers s. Not useless, but a great trivia question. Hugh name the brothers that hold the NHL record for most combined points by 2 brothers are the Gretzky brothers. Wayne 2,857 points. Brent 4 points. Most people have an above average amount of arms. Quite a few people drag down the average by having only 1 or no arms. But very few people bring the average up by having more than 2 arms. Cabbage, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Chinese broccoli, Brussels sprouts, collard greens, Savoy cabbage, and kohlrabi are all different cultivars of the same plant Brassica oleracea. Koala's fur is tinged green from algae on eucalyptus trees. Also, koalas are one of 3 animals that can survive on eucalyptus leaves. Eucalyptus leaves are extremely poisonous to most animals. NASCAR champion Bill Elliott's first Cup Series win and first Xfinity win while on road horses. His son Chase, Also a NASCAR champion, also earned his first Cup Series win on a road course. First Lady Abigail Adams had an uncle named Cotton Tufts, who helped the Adams family with their finances and investments. Dr. Cotton Tufts also had a son, Cotton Tufts Jr. Human buttholes can be expanded to about 6-7 inches with proper training and time. Raccoons can fit into any hole as wide as their skull, about to 4 inches. You do the math. The only Major League Baseball owner that voted against interleague games when they were added in the 1990s was Texas Rangers owner and future U.S. President George W. Bush. Alaska's Aleutian Islands extend far enough west there in the Eastern Hemisphere, making Alaska the northernmost, westernmost, and easternmost U.S. state. Physician Paracelsus' full name is Philippus Aureolus Theophrastus von Hohenheim. Islamic alchemist Geber's full name is Abu Musa Jabir ibn Hayyan al-Azdi. Chuck Lorre, who created 2.5 Men and The Big Bang Theory, also wrote the theme song to the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon series. The average adult spends more time of their life on the toilet than exercising. Earth is rotating counterclockwise. That one kinda unnerves me, Ingle. The first US station to broadcast in HD is in my hometown, RAL TV. Did you know that in TLOTR, an AR gun kicks that Helmer, Viggo Mortensen, actually broke his toe? Too many people know about that one. Gremlins and Temple of Doom caused the PG-13 rating. Red Dawn would become the first movie released in theaters with the new rating. The USAF Boeing E-4B is the most expensive aircraft to operate per flight hour. We don't know who invented or held the patent for the fire hydrant, as those papers were lost when the US Patent Office burned down. The Ramones were said to be unbeatable at Trivial Pursuit. They would always pick geography. They were also on tour for many years.